I had the pleasure of being in India just over a year ago, my first trip, and visited Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore. I've yet to discover the beaches on the northeast, but maybe one day. In any event, it's great to be here, and obviously we were thrilled to have your Prime Minister here not too long ago. And obviously, as we look around the Middle East on so many different levels, the growing collaboration and the rapprochement and the deepening relationship with India, I think, is something that is very much valued and appreciated in Israel on so many different levels. And the focus of our panel today is really to talk about the deepening of that relationship in terms of the digital revolution and high-tech solutions for Indian industries and society. Just a word about myself. I'm originally from Canada, moved to Israel about 17 years ago, and I've been practicing law primarily in the technology and intellectual property space at Yigal Arnon. It's one of Israel's preeminent full-service firms, and I've really had the privilege of working with a fantastic array of technology companies, innovative thinkers, large and small companies in Israel over the last 16 or so years, and it's great to be part of this ecosystem. I've also become quite involved in Asia and head up our China group in the firm, but also am very involved with Indian ventures as well, especially in the defense and security sector as well as life sciences. So we have a great panel today, very diverse, and what we're going to try and do is pull some themes together and sort of canvas diverse views and see how we can come to a deeper understanding of how high-tech solutions can really make an impact. First of all, to my left, Natan Barak, the CEO and founder of mPrest, a global provider of mission-critical monitoring and control solutions for the defense, security, utility, and industrial IoT sectors. Natan was the founder and former commander of the Israeli Navy's C4I branch, and both a technological visionary and seasoned entrepreneur. Megha Tata, it's great to meet you. COO at BTVi and VP at the International Advertising Association. Almost 25 years of experience in the management of television networks, I understand, and has been recognized as one of the next 30 most powerful women to watch several years ago, but also recently received the Women Leadership Award by World Women Leadership Congress in 2014. Want to talk a little bit about that. Moving on, Isaac, great to see you again. We've had the pleasure of speaking at other forum. Chairman and president of CropX, an agricultural analytics company that develops cloud-based software solutions integrated with wireless sensors, boosting crop yields and saving water and energy. Isaac is also someone who's founded and led two significant Israeli technology companies that went on to become world leaders in their respective fields. Siddhartha Roy, great to meet you, CEO of Hungama.com. I don't think that, how do I say, the Indian contingent here certainly must know a lot about that, so the Israeli side of the room will like to hear more about that. But obviously, South Asia's largest digital media entertainment company, active in music, videos, movies, etc. And I understand that under your guidance, you've set up a one-of-its-kind consumer venture in digital entertainment, partnerships with over 400 content creators, record labels, studios, etc. Look forward to hearing from you. And lastly, Alan Kamer, the managing partner at Qure, OurCrowd's digital health fund, new fund, doing a lot of very exciting things in this area. Alan is a successful entrepreneur, experienced corporate executive in healthcare and medical industries, and was the co-founder of Humedica, a population health and analytics company that was sold a couple of years ago. All right, so we have about 25 minutes or so. what I would like to do is, we all know that technology can impact such a diverse area of a society. Technology that is transformative, has a truly impactful effect on the way people live, interact with each other. It affects all kinds of areas, as we know, from healthcare, communications, agriculture, food, entertainment, etc. And I'd like to start with you, Siddhartha. And we heard in one of the previous presentations, one of the great movies, by the way, it's terrific, really enjoyable, about the great linguistic and cultural diversity of India. And we would be interested to hear how Hungama has been able to reach out to such a diverse audience and drive the success that it has achieved, overcoming, cultural obstacles, linguistic obstacles, etc. And I think that's important for Israelis also, looking at India from the outside and seeing this great diversity. So, hear your thoughts.
Shalom, thank you for having me here, and it's been a fascinating 2 days that we've been spending here with Israeli startups and companies, and we look and see the opportunity really out there for us. To just get to Daniel's direct into the question, India's just like Europe, actually, if you look at it. It's 22 languages, 7 of these languages produced serious amount of content and entertainment, and we have upwards of a couple of 100 million consumers in each of these languages. And it's actually that power which actually gets us to go out over there and create products and services which gets personalized to every language and every need, basis the consumer subset which is out there. Take, for example, entertainment as a core value set. Today, India produces approximately over 1,000 movies. There is music which is part of our entertainment, which means that all languages are actually not only producing content, but that content's being brought in various languages. What you see out of Bollywood, which is seen as Indian entertainment, is actually only 52% of the country actually speaks that language. The remaining 48% has various other sets of languages which are spoken, which also produce a lot of content. And companies like us have gone about personalizing these experiences and these consumer journeys and conversations through language, through both transliterating the language itself and content being brought in to be able to substantiate and get that consumption going. The other big play that's played out in diversity for India has been the fact that payments as a system had not necessarily, so for example, if you were to look at credit cards and debit cards in India, for the longest time, these plastic currencies have not necessarily been swiped by users except for using in ATMs. And that's where the entire mobile ecosystem came in to drive content consumption through digital payments, which were driven through consumer wallets. We have a country where 99% of our mobile users are actually prepaid, which means that consumers are topping up their SIMs before they use any service. And all of this was brought in through microcharging and micro payments as a platform. And that, again, has serious amount of diversity in the way this gets played out, because you are actually subscribing to a service for as little as 1 day to 1 week to a month of different sets of entertainment components being consumed.
But when we look at the culture, and I'm a big believer that understanding different cultures it's very important when you're building collaborations across borders in different countries, etc. What word of advice would you give to the Israeli entrepreneur that's looking at India as somewhat overwhelming, right? 52% maybe speak the one language you had mentioned, but the 48% is a significant number. And how does the outsider approach that? How do you relate to that?
So the way you need to look at India is the core fundamentals, depending on linguistics, actually doesn't play out in India. You may have a product. The product, in my mind, would stand tall if it's being presented to a North Indian consumer vis-a-vis a South Indian consumer. It's just the way it gets presented, the way it gets personalized is a lot different. And that's where a good partner comes into play who understands the Indian diversity and the diaspora and then is able to guide your product experiences to reach the same consumer. The key value on the Indian cultural context of consuming entertainment doesn't necessarily change. If there is entertainment being consumed, you would have certain parts of India where the quantum of consumption may go up, but as a whole, the country would largely play out the same subset of content consumption stories out there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I'd like to move over to Natan, sort of changing focus entirely for a minute. First of all, it's a great privilege to be sitting with you on this panel and your tremendous contributions to Israeli security. But when we think about India and Israel collaborations, military and defense deals immediately come to mind. In fact, one of the upshots, I think, from Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel was perhaps an attempt to broaden that collaboration a little bit beyond that sort of security and defense sphere and move it more to the technological and innovative sectors. And given your vantage point, how do you see that evolving? Do you think that there's a real likelihood of success to move away from sort of an exclusive military collaboration to a greater diverse collaboration?
Okay, first of all, thanks OurCrowd for the opportunity to speak with you. OurCrowd is a shareholder in our company. Maybe I'll speak about it later. We started with the defense part. I'm retired colonel. The main issue why I mentioned that is because I've led a process where we have unified all the command control in the Navy, airplane, missiles, boat, submarines, special forces to one platform. When I retired, we have done the same thing in the defense market, which means the same platform is running everywhere. Border control in Singapore, air defense in Vietnam, a tactical system for Chile. Now we are doing air defense for Falkland and a lot more. But we have been successful of taking this very robust infrastructure and command control platform, which is working also in Iron Dome, and we have converted it to commercial application. We are running the vehicle fleet management command control system of Ituran. We are running command and control system for the electrical company here in Israel. We are running the command and control system for Mekorot, which is the utility company here in Israel. We are running the smart city for the biggest telco here in Israel for Bezek, which are implementing our smart cities and smart businesses all over the country. And the point really is that we've started also work with New Zealand and with Reliance in India. Reliance is the biggest telco company, the 4G, talking about the 4G. They have more than 100,000 base stations all over India, and we are in the process of controlling that all over India. Now, to me, as someone that have been observing, moving from the defense for the commercial market, I truly believe that we can do a lot more in the commercial markets rather than in the defense. On the defense, we are sitting on the expenses of the government. When we are talking about a commercial application, and this is one of the things that I think will speed up the business with Reliance. The way that we speak with Reliance is not let you spend more money on us so we'll increase security. The whole discussion is how we can make Reliance money using our platform. And the vision with Reliance is that we are going to sell smart cities, we are going to sell smart agriculture, we are doing smart agriculture with Netafim, which is the biggest water dripping irrigation company. And they commit to their clients to double the growth just by using our system. We are measuring many parameters and dealing with all the water system and other stuff that we put into those farms.
Let me just interrupt for a minute. One of the concerns, and I've been involved in a couple of significant defense deals, et cetera, technology companies in Israel exporting to technology transfer to India. And one of the concerns that really worries Israeli companies is IP protection and the fear that something is going to happen in India or other countries. And that makes them very reluctant to engage in what I call a full and complete technology transfer. And I'm just, if you could elaborate on that point when you mention these collaborations with what is arguably, these are strategic installations, telecommunications, irrigation, etc.
We have a methodology how to prove that those companies, even this electrical company was terrified by using our platform. How can they protect? We are managing 300 sites all over Israel. The same goes with the watering company and other utilities and facilities. We have proven to Reliance that in spite of we are going to control all of them from one integrated operations center, they will be fully protected. We had the same problem with Arnon, by the way. We were terrified by the fact that once you launch an interceptor, someone will take the interceptor and throw it back to you. So we have done many, many very sophisticated things on protecting those assets. But if you allow me just one last sentence with regard to your previous question. We can increase the growth in India, like what we are doing with Netafim. We can increase the education using our smart cities application. We can increase the efficiency using energy, and we can increase the watering supplies efficiency and so on, and water quality and so on, like we are doing here in New York, in New Zealand, and other countries.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, hard to do justice to these complex concepts in a few minutes. We all recognize that. I'd like to move on to Megha. Jumping from military defense, etc., to entertainment and the internet and news and media, the rapid rise and deep penetration that in India of internet and telecommunications, it's affected so many aspects of life and society. How do you see this deployment of cutting-edge communication technologies? How do you see it affecting the media market in India? And where do you see future opportunities, especially, again, for collaborations between Israeli and Indian companies?
Right, thank you. Shalom, friends. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Just echoing the thoughts and conversations we've been having and what Neeraj spoke and Siddharth spoke. It's been a completely overwhelming experience meeting up with some fabulous organizations and companies and people in Israel. And thank you so much for the wonderful hospitality extended to all of us. Media, digital revolution, Daniel, you rightly said, is a revolution. It is happening, it's out there, and people are seeing the impact of it. With reference to how it's impacting the media consumption, it's pretty much out there. The overall consumption pattern has completely changed, and have been part of the media industry for the last 25, 27 years, and I have seen it happen in my lifetime, how the consumption has changed from linear to digital to mobile to God knows what else is in future for all of us. And as has been spoken a lot about India and its growth in this industry, the fact that it's the second largest mobile market, it's the second largest internet market, it is the largest, it's the cheapest data market, and today, as we have spoken again, how Reliance and Jio has completely changed the game for everybody in terms of, you can buy a phone which is less than $25 with unlimited data. And now you can imagine what that's going to do to the consumption to that large part of our strata, which is your middle class and the lower middle class, which is going to consume even more content as we speak. And so when the content consumption is taking, the way the content is being consumed is changing, and I think Sid can ratify that, the overall video consumption has grown in the last year or so 5 to 6 times. That means that there is a challenge, and yet there's an opportunity. and what that opportunity lies between, and that's been, for me at least, an eye-opener with my interaction with a whole lot of organizations and companies who are in the tech space. And like you rightly said, the tech, sort of the India-Israel conversations which have been happening with reference to investment have been primarily driven through defense or agriculture or health. But I think there's so much which can be done in the media entertainment space. And we haven't even scratched the surface on that. And that is the opportunity. And I think for all of us who are visiting Israel for the first time, we're quite amazed with what can be done and what's being done already, and we're like, oh, we didn't even know this is happening and this could be possible. So, and I think the key is the data analytics opportunity of how, because this is all about data. We all know data is the new oil, right? So how do you use the technology which already exists and has been used in probably, in the country, in Israel itself, and maybe other countries where those partnerships have happened, considering that India is at that cusp of change which is taking place, considering that we are at that reflection point which Neeraj spoke about, is where lies the opportunity. Then how do you integrate the technology which already exists in this country to an opportunity which exists in India? And what is the way to do it? I don't know. Do you know? Maybe not. But the only way this can happen is if you have these conversations and you have these opportunities to talk to each other and understand, what's working for you, what's not working for us, and how do you make that whole relationship work. So I think there's going to be some exciting times ahead between India and Israel, especially with reference to media and entertainment.
Thank you. Very insightful. And you touched on 2 points, consumption and analytics, which I think are very relevant to Isaac. Perhaps a different form of consumption, and that relates to agriculture and food. And really, it's quite remarkable when we look at the growth of population growth globally, and particularly in countries such as India, China, etc. And one of the perhaps most critical concerns for policymakers, governments, etc., is how do you deal with food security issues, and that relates to the field of agriculture and how the new technologies are impacting in a very real way food security. And we'd love to hear a little bit about CropX's approach to this. We hear buzzwords, precision agricultural technology, agricultural big data. Here again, the analytics come into it, and how do you see CropX making an impact in markets such as India?
Sure. So thank you to the OurCrowd for having me here, and big welcome to the Indian colleagues. This is really an exciting time. The agriculture is in a boom revolution. I mean, you've spent to the technology for you. So, you've been here for a couple of days. To put this in context, Israel is a country formed in the desert. There was nothing here, there was sand. And so irrigation and utilizing water really is the bedrock from which Israel grew up. The last few years have been a fascinating revolution that drew me in. My background was in life science, and I founded a couple of companies that use big data, including mining the human genome. It's a revolution here, and one which is very relevant to India and other arid places, because it is really a meeting of 2 worlds, as was apparent from what the previous speakers spoke. An understanding of agriculture and the bringing in of big data and analytics. Just to give you an example that really blew my mind and led to the founding of CropX several years back. The drip irrigation was founded here in Israel and has changed agriculture. This happened 50 years ago. Using drip irrigation, you can save up to 80% of the water. But after 50 years of drip irrigation, do you have any idea how much of the irrigated marketplace has been captured by drip irrigation? Any guess? 4%. 4%. CropX was founded understanding that you have to be able to allow existing irrigation systems do a better job. And this needs to be done both on massive fields as well as on itsy-bitsy tiny fields. And that's why I'm really excited to have the conversation with you guys. I think that India is a very exciting next step for CropX and for companies like CropX. We're certainly looking very much at China and India. Truth be told, when I founded CropX, it was actually India that I had in mind more than other places. I then quickly refocused on the US because that's where the big market and money is. But it's really the next step of evolution is bringing these great technologies that have moved the smarts to the cloud, that use sophisticated sensors, and that can allow both very large farms, but in the next step also very small farms to water less and to grow more, and hence be able to feed the growing population.
Thank you very much. And moving from agriculture to health, Alan, would love to hear a little bit from you about what is clearly a huge opportunity for Israeli companies to collaborate with Indian companies, and that is in the digital health field. We think about the size of the population in India, the active ecosystem of digital health and med tech here in Israel. There seems to be a real synergy there. And from your perspective as your managing partner of Qure, welcome any comments you have, observations, and also to talk a little bit about the difficulties and challenges of bringing together these, two pieces of the puzzle.
Sure. Well, first of all, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We're excited about this partnership, and there are a great number of companies that have developed world-class technology here in Israel, many startups that we see that are doing really cutting-edge, innovative things that are applicable all over the world in various healthcare systems. We heard John mention ZebraMed, a company that we've invested in that has struck a partnership with a large company in India that is really exporting their radiology capabilities around the world, teleradiology solutions. So here's a beautiful marriage between Israeli innovation, artificial intelligence and machine learning applied to radiology and images, being brought to an Indian company in a B2B partnership that's really selling its products and services in 20 countries around the world and 150 institutions. And I think that serves as a perfect example of some of the B2B collaborations that we're expecting many of our startups and many startups in Israel to forge ahead in India. I think we've heard about some of the challenges. 29 states, 20 plus different languages, a healthcare system that is still growing and evolving. Israel is a leader in the world in digitized healthcare. My partner, Yossi Bahagon, led efforts at Clalit to completely digitize their entire healthcare system. So in Israel, we walk around with our mobile phones that really serve as medical devices as well. We have all of our electronic health records, all of our images, the ability to manage schedules and order prescriptions. This is really the future of healthcare all over the world. And some of those technologies and capabilities are going to be exported into India. I think working with the entrepreneurs and the leading innovations to help them enter into India in a measured and thoughtful way, rather than just assuming that it's one country or assuming it's a country that has a healthcare system that is one size fits all, or even a healthcare system that cannot afford some of the innovation. I think partnering, as you referenced earlier, partnering with the right collaborators, helping to bring those technologies in a thoughtful and measured way, and working through challenges, whether they're regulatory, whether they're language, whether they're cultural, whether they're reimbursement, is going to be key to successes. And I think really spending the time, you know, when we work with startups, they often go to the US first, like we heard before, because it's a big market, it's a market that pays at a premium. But figuring out that India should be in the conversation as one of the early markets that you go to, because of all the advantages that it offers and because of the collaboration experiences that can be had with other innovative software companies and innovative technologies, is what makes it really exciting.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Time is up for those of you who didn't hear the ding ding. So we were ding dinged. It's been a great conversation. Obviously, this could go on in many different directions, but I think that the dialogue and the communication is there. It's starting, and I think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful relationship between Israel and India, and we look forward to welcoming all of you here again and seeing you in India. So thank you very much.
Thank you.